Hey there, in this video, I want to walk you through the exact steps I took to do a user research survey to understand my audience for my product. Now, my product is a book, but this could definitely be applied to a digital product, a service, really anything where you need to understand a little bit more about the people you're hoping to serve and the problem you're hoping to help them overcome. So I wanted to create some slides just to make this really easy to follow along. So let's jump over to those slides right now. Okay, so how do we create a really effective user research survey? And I want to pause here and say there's many ways you could conduct user research. I am a big fan of surveys, especially early on in the process, because it's a very low cost and low time commitment method to do some research. It also, in my experience, allows you to kind of cast a really wide net, and then based on the responses to that survey, you might identify a couple of people who seem like they might be very valuable to maybe hop on a phone call with. Just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so how do we create a survey? There's really 4 steps to understanding the problem and figuring out if you're on the right track. So the first thing we need to do is to ask the right questions and understand the problem, which we are going to go into detail today. Steps 3 and 4 are kind of what you would do after you have the research done. So we're not going to touch on that, but the idea is we are initially going to do some research, and then in steps 3 and 4, you would be building the quote product to help solve the problem that you uncover in steps 1 and 2. So let's get started right into the Ask the Right Questions section. Okay, so in this step of research, the goal is really to understand people's kind of current reality. What is their current state? What are the problems they are facing in their everyday life? And not hypothetical problems, but we want to hear about real problems that happened last week, last month, earlier today. And then we also want to understand the desired future world. So if they could have a world where this problem didn't exist, what would that look like? And I'll show you examples in my survey that I created. To understand this though, a key thing is asking the right questions of the right people. And surveys sometimes get a bad rap, and I think it's because people tend to not put the effort and thought into writing very articulate questions, because the quality of the answers that you get back is directly related to the quality of the questions you ask. So before you start to write questions for a survey or interviews, if you were going to conduct interviews, but before I start any research project, I take a step back and have a conversation with either my team or my client, if a company has hired me to do research, kind of framed in these 3 sections. So first of all, we want to understand where people are today. What is their current reality? What is life like as it is right now? Then we hop over to the right and we want to understand, well, where do they want to be in the future? What does their life look like if someone can wave a magic wand and help them overcome challenges in their current reality? So we want to understand where they want to be, their future, their desired reality. And then we have to spend some time in this middle section, understanding the obstacles that are stopping them. So what is the resistance they face? Because they're here at the left where they are today. We know where they want to be in the future. The big question is, well, what the heck is stopping them? What's the resistance? What's the problems, etc.? And the goal is that we're going to get a really good understanding of where they are today, understand where they want to be in the future, and if we can make this go away, then we can get them over to that right section, to their desired future reality. So how do we build a survey that helps us understand these things? There's many parts to it, and I'm going to show you the example of my exact survey, but it starts with asking the right questions at each step. And every question that I ask in a survey is really designed to fall into one of these three buckets. Each question is aimed to understand a little bit about where people are today, or obstacles that are stopping them, or where they want to be in the future. And I will point out examples in my survey so you understand which questions map back to each of these. But where people are today, you might ask questions related to competitors or workarounds that they're doing in order to solve a problem. Maybe you're asking them, well, as a result of this problem, what are side effects? What are the consequences that are happening beyond just money? Obstacles, well, what are their questions? What are their concerns? Is it time? Is it money? Let's find those things out. And finally, where do they want to be in the future? Well, we want to know kind of the reality of where they want to be in the future, but what are the underlying things? Maybe they want a new job, but they don't just want a new job. They want more time with their family. They want respect because they feel like they're not respected by their boss at their current company. So not just kind of the tip of the iceberg goal, but what's all that underlying goals and motivations that maybe people have to get from where they are today to where they want to be in the future. So transitioning now into the research I did for the book I'm writing, and I don't have a title for the book yet, but at a high level, the book is really centered on this problem that I see so many people facing in their lives. And this problem is something that I think kind of subconsciously have been noticing throughout really my entire career as a researcher. And this idea that life is going on as usual, everything is wonderful, and then something happens. And then in 60 seconds of having this event or trigger happen, you kind of go from 0 to end of the world, right? You've probably experienced this in your life. So this is really the core of the book I'm writing. Actually, I already wrote it. I wrote 35,000 words 2 months ago. My challenge right now is that even though I did a lot of research before I wrote the book, I want to make sure that a lot of the terminology and a lot of the framing that I plan to do for the marketing, that it is aligning to the examples and situations, and most importantly, the vocabulary that I think my target audience uses. So I decided, okay, I'm going to apply user research principles to my own book and create a survey around that. So I'm going to flip over to my Google survey in a moment, but just to give you a few examples of questions and how they map back to our three areas of focus: where people are today, the obstacles, and where they want to be in the future. So a question to understand where people are today might be, the last time I felt like I could not ditch negative, panicked, and fearful thoughts was when ... This is a very open-ended question. My hope is that people write paragraph-long answers. I want them to tell me that last time this happened, last night when this happened, 2 weeks ago when this happened. Now, notice how I framed this. I didn't just say, when do you feel like you cannot ditch your negative thoughts or something like that? I cued them to think about the last time, and I phrased this in first person. So the last time I felt like I could not ditch, etc., etc. This, my goal is that this takes them out of giving me a hypothetical response, but instead, in their mind, makes them think of that very last time when this happened and tell me the story of that situation. And you'll see examples of this in my survey results. But the second question around the obstacles. So My number one problem when it comes to trying to overcome these panicked and negative thoughts is ... Again, if I had phrased this as, why can't you overcome your negative thoughts? We might get okay answers, but because I'm phrasing it in first person and I'm using that my number one problem so that I don't get a bullet list of 7 reasons or something, but my hope is that the person is going to really zoom in on this one problem and go to specifics about that. The next question, getting to their future world or why it's important to overcome this problem. This is an example of a question I asked. I'm interested in learning how to reduce this type of thinking because ... So this gets back to, if we go back here, this gets back to the goals they have, the motivations they have, the values they have. And I have seen time and time again through asking questions in first person and using this very, very specific and really kind of Mad Libs or fill in the blank style questions that I do get paragraph long answers. And it has not just been for my book, it's been for clients as well. And it doesn't matter what industry you are researching, or if you're researching a digital product or an app or a website or an existing product that's already in market or a book, this works for everything. So I want to flip over to my survey and show you what that looked like. So let me go over there now. Okay, so I used Google Forms. It was very, very simple. I did some text to frame this up so people can just get a sense of what this is all about and they're not just launched into a survey. And then what did I do? Well, the first question was really aimed at, honestly, just weeding out people that may not be a good fit for this to begin with. So the first question, do you ever feel like you can't ditch negative, panicked, and fearful thoughts, or that you're sometimes stuck in your own head? I'm going to say yes. But if people answer no, they're sent to the end, basically, where I say, thank you. Doesn't seem like you're a fit, but feel free to leave your email and ask me any questions you might have. So we're going to say yes, but that way, the person who answers no, they don't end up going through the whole survey because that's a waste of their time and I don't want to read their answers either. So question 1, yes. Now we get into some of these details. So the last time I felt like I could not ditch negative, panicked, and fearful thoughts was when ... And then I say, please tell me the story of what happened and be as detailed as possible. You'll see in the results, I got paragraph long answers from people. So I'm just going to put test in here for now. Question 3. If I had to describe this type of thinking in 3 to 5 words or short phrase, it would be ... Okay, this is one that I put in really as an add-on to what I just taught you, because I am really using this survey as a way to understand the vocabulary and the words that people use to describe that type of thinking. I have my idea of the words people use, and I have been doing research in social media and elsewhere to figure out these words. But I wanted to just do this as a gut check to find out those answers. So I'm going to put test, and I'll show you the answers in a moment. Question 4. I'm interested in learning how to reduce this type of thinking because... Okay, this was getting back to the goals, the motivations, the why. Why is this so important? And this would be crucial, especially as you can imagine, when we get to the marketing side of this book or this product. Ooh, let's put test in here. And then we are going to go to a question that I wasn't sure how this would turn out because I've honestly never done this before, I don't think. But I decided to throw in a graphic because I wanted people to describe in their own words what is happening in this graphic. So I say, imagine life's going along swimmingly, and then something happens. And I put the graphic, and then I said, what do you call this type of thinking? And there's no right or wrong answers. I just want to hear how you would describe this word or this graphic. The answers were amazing. Let's put test. And some people actually said something to the effect of, this survey was so much fun. I mean, whoever says a survey is fun, but someone said this felt like a little bit of therapy session because it got me thinking. I mean, I couldn't have got a better compliment than that on this survey. And then I always, always, always at the end of a survey say anything else you want to add, what's your email address and your first name, in case I want to follow up with people and in case they want to be an early reader of my book. So the next question then is, okay, well, how do we analyze? Oh no, you're not supposed to see that. How do we analyze all of the responses? Because I have, I don't know, almost 200 responses. And I have hidden the email address and name, so you don't know who these people are or anything. But as you can see, this goes into a Google Sheet and it's, totally overwhelming to analyze. How the heck do you analyze this? So I don't have time to go into the full process I use in detail, but I want to walk you through it at a really high level. So for each question, so each of these columns is a question. For each question, I made a sheet. So let's just do question 1. The last time I felt like I couldn't ditch negative panic thoughts, blah, blah, blah. I took all these answers in this column and I put them in their own sheet. So don't worry about what's here at the right now. So I put all the answers so I can isolate this sheet just on this question of, when was the last time you felt this way? Then what I did was I ran all of these answers in this column through a tool I use that helps me, actually, maybe I'll do it for you live, that helps me quickly analyze lots and lots of words. So let's go over to this tool. It's called Text Analyzer. It's not very pretty or anything, but we are going to paste all the results in there. Okay, there they are. And then we're going to say analyze the text. And now we can scroll down here. And remember, this question was, when was the last time you felt panicked or worried or that you couldn't ditch negative thoughts? So we are going to go down here and we're starting to see words. We're seeing 2-word frequency. I was and I. Okay, that's pretty useless. But if we go down maybe to, I didn't have this teed up, so bear with me. I want to get to the 3-word section because I feel like that's going to be a little bit more valuable for us. So, oh, there we go. Okay. So, we're seeing words like portfolio, job, relationship, habit. Let's go back to the top. This isn't the best example, but the idea is failed to, laid off, portfolio, husband, panicked. So coronavirus, because we're doing this in the midst of the coronavirus right now, anxiety, etc. So the purpose of this little exercise of quickly analyzing this text is that if we go back over here, I want to come up with categories that I could assign each answer to. So I came up with categories based on this analysis of this column. It seemed like categories or trends were people felt panicked and that they couldn't ditch negative thoughts. When it came to their work, coronavirus, family and relationship, day-to-day life, they didn't understand the question. That's just there so I can track which answers are useless. Money, job interview, romantic relationships, health, friendship, and that's it. So then what did I do? Well, I literally went through and read every single ones and assigned them to a category. And they could get assigned to more than one category. And I did that for all of them. And it took a while, but that's the way you analyze quantitative data. Qualitative data, I should say. I always mess them up. And then what happened after that? Well, then I had this great breakdown of how many answers mapped back to these categories. And then I could take this data and kind of help myself visualize it a little more. So for each question, I did a little bit of analysis, and then I could end up with a chart that told me the answers or the trends around the last time people felt like they had this panicked or spiraling or negative thoughts was related to work and career, 41%, coronavirus, 14%, family relationships, 8%, day-to-day life, money, job interview, romantic relationships, health and friendship, etc. This is very, very valuable for me now because maybe I need to have a chapter in my book that really focuses on work and career and family or something, or maybe in the introduction, or maybe when we get to the marketing side of things. So this was super, super helpful. But as I went through the rest of the survey, you remember, let's go to question 3. We don't need to do all of them, but question 3 was that question around why is it important to fix this negative or panicked thinking? And so again, I put all the answers in this column, and then I made all these columns based on the trends I noticed, and we don't have to go through them all. And I read all of these and I assigned them over here. And then what I did was I came up with my results. So why is it important to fix this? All of the categories. And I probably should merge some of these. I should probably go back and revisit this, but why is it important to fix this? People feel like they're missing out or they're not present in life. They are overwhelmed with negative or self-doubt. They want more peace and more happiness and less worry. It's affecting them mentally and physically, etc., etc. As you can see, this is super, super valuable. And then my favorite, a description of that graphic I made. If we go back over here, remember I made this graphic. I asked people how they would describe this graphic. So put all the answers here, and then the themes were centered around panic and anxiety and worry, negative, spiral thinking, jumping to conclusions, worst case scenario, catastrophizing, obviously it's a very technical term, overanalyzing thinking, and then I was able to have all of my results pretty clear over here. But that is how you can really quickly and for a very low budget and low time commitment get a ton of answers with a gold mine of findings in a very short amount of time. But it only works if you ask the right questions in your survey. I'm not going to go back to the beginning, but I've done enough surveys to tell you that, and I've looked at other people's to know that the magic is really in how you phrase these questions. Now, your question probably is, well, what do you do with all this? What I do next is, for each question, we're going to jump to this third question. Why is it important to fix this problem? Okay, now I had kind of my themes or categories that emerged. And what I do is I take each theme or category here, so missing out on life and being more present. And then I literally go back to the answers from the survey and I cut and paste answers here. And this is very manual, and sometimes I have an assistant do this, but I really wanted to immerse myself in the data this time. The purpose of doing this is now I can hand this off to a copywriter, for example, and they could use this to write marketing copy that is not just driven off of hypotheticals, but we might literally use these exact answers from people who filled out the survey. So the theme of, do you feel like you're missing out on life and you want to be more present? Well, we might use, let's see what a good example. Oh, I want to be successful and get out of my own way. I spend so much time in my head that I just want to be present. I mean, I didn't even have to write that text. That's from a survey response. That would be a gold mine of text to test for, say, a marketing page or something. So the point of this is to show you how valuable a research survey can be to give you really, really awesome data around these three things: where people are today, where they want to be in the future, and what is stopping them. And if I had done this before I ever wrote a single word of the book, I would have been able to use their answers to the question of this, which I didn't put in this survey, but you should always put an obstacle question in your survey, especially if it's for a new product. But if I had put this, it would have given me a ton of ideas on what to include in my book. But you can imagine if this is a survey for, say, some fitness product. My number one problem when it comes to sticking with a fitness program is ... You're going to get a ton of responses. Those answers are going to show you the real problems and the trends of the problems. And then if it were me, I would build my product so that it solves, the top X problems that are identified through these answers. I wanted to share this with you because I thought it was really interesting to show you a real life example. I can't always show real life examples of the research I do, but I felt like it would be an awesome opportunity to kind of let you inside and see the real research I do when I'm building my own products, in this case, a book. But it really, really goes back to focusing on where people are today, what's stopping them, and where do they want to be in the future. And if you can make sure each of your survey questions is designed around that, then you can get awesome answers in the exact words that people use to describe your product. And my hunch is that this is going to be very, very effective for my editors and for my marketing team as we set off later this year to really come up with an awesome marketing plan for this book. So if you are working on a research project, I would love to hear about it. Drop a comment below to let me know if you have ever used user research surveys, and if through watching this video, maybe you have learned one or two things that you might want to change for a future user research survey or project that you are working on. Thank you, and let me know in the comments below what you are going to change in the research surveys that you might do in the future. Okay, I will talk to you soon.